So, Rachel, what would you like to talk about today?
I mean, there's nothing really. There's nothing to discuss, Molly. I mean, there's just nothing going on.
I know, it's weird. We started this podcast right at this time where there's really slow news. Like, there is that one thing.
The summer is really, it is very slow. The Olympics are coming up, yeah. Shannon Doherty passed away. Richard Simmons.
That was a big one.
Dr. Ruth, it happens in threes, though we did have four because then, the actress from The Shining. And so almost, we had four. Did we almost have five? So
we almost had, it was like a 4.5.
So should it have been were we going to have a 6? Were we going to go for 6?
Oh,
they come in threes, supposedly.
Yeah, you're right. Big week. Big weekend, or I don't even know what day it is. I'm just going to say I'm supposed to be on vacation, trying to catch the news when I can. It's been some big news. Why don't you start? Why don't you get us started with your thoughts on the topic everyone's talking about, the assassination attempt?
Well, are we officially calling it an assassination attempt? I mean,
yeah.
We just aren't sure. We have to investigate it as such.
Right.
We're looking into whether or not it was an assassination attempt and possibly terrorism as well.
Right. But don't jump to conclusions, because
honestly,
it could be anything at this point. It could not have been an attempt to shoot former President Trump in the head.
No.
Could be something else.
I mean, he was just obviously going for a stroll on the roof, because he played so many video games in his youth that he thought that he could scale roofs. And obviously we were in Pennsylvania, so, carrying rifles is a common thing in 2020.
Everyone does it. Yeah.
And actually, interesting enough, that building that he was caught on was a concern. So it was pointed out as a concern by police prior to the event, and that was in fact the building that he was caught on. The civilians actually were the ones that pointed him out.
A number of them.
Right, and you can hear them on video, pointing them out to police, or pointing him out to police. And I guess, what happened was there were 2 police officers that went up to the roof. In the moment, one saw him and he pointed the gun at the police officer, who then retreated down the ladder. And in that split second is when he shot at the former President Trump.
Right. Yeah. So this young person, 20-year-old person who did this, was seen by a number of people, right? Like we just discussed. And it was pointed out like loudly, right? And so the question was, well, did that, and then there were some other law enforcement, like there was more local law enforcement that sort of got into it, not necessarily, I don't know if they did was like protocol or what, but they sort of started making advances, I guess you could say.
Right.
And so the question was, did that speed up the timeline and whatever, this guy was doing?
Right.
Because immediately thereafter he started shooting. So we'll never know the answer to that question. I'm sure there are protocols, and did they follow them? I don't know. I know a lot of people are talking about the Secret Service right now. A lot of people are talking about the relationship the Secret Service has with like the local law enforcement. I'm sure that's, I would think that would be tenuous. It's not like they're a team that works together all the time. So,
and especially, we have the whole January 6th thing going on still, with, President Trump being highly involved in that. So, yeah.
Right. This is a lot. As much though I see, for example, Biden says, it's the temperature's hot and we need to cool things off. Just pointing it out, we kind of touched on this last week. If you think of it, we really did. We said Democrats can't even talk to Democrats. Republicans can't even talk to Republicans. How are we going to kind of come across the aisle, right, and have normal conversations? We did say this last week. If you're not listening to us yet, you should listen to us, because clearly we are on it. and here we are. I wish we were less right, because here we are. where we're talking about how things are hot right now and we need to cool it off, right? That was what the President Biden said. And I don't think that's happening. I don't think that's happening at all. Not from what I see. I think there's a lot of angry people from a lot of different places. And I don't see a lot of unity as much as we're talking about that. And frankly, I understand why people are upset on a lot of fronts, because I'm just going to come right out and say it. I'm really disappointed with the headlines that I'm seeing. And I sent you a whole bunch of screenshots,
right?
Because I am like, I just can't not say exactly what I'm thinking, which is these headlines are misleading.
To start with just the very first one, which was we're looking into it as an attempted assassination.
Correct.
That's what it be. When did we start classifying trying to murder a former president as anything but an assassination attempt, or a man running for president? Even if he wasn't a former president. Even if he wasn't the former president, he is currently running for president. So how would that still not be an assassination attempt?
Right. No, we reclassified that about 30 minutes before the event, right around the time that the man was seen on the roof. That's when that happened, apparently. Yeah, no, these headlines are like grossly inaccurate, misleading, and that is why. This is why we have people saying, I don't believe the media. I don't trust them. I think I'm lying too, from every angle. I don't care if you're talking about Fox News or CNN. This is why. I mean, I'm not a reporter. I didn't take any of those classes in college, but somebody did it wrong. A whole lot of people are not getting it right. And that is not helping the temperature of our political situation.
I mean, on social media, we're seeing anything from, it wasn't a bullet that he was hit with. It was the teleprompter. The glass of the teleprompter was shattered and hit him in the ear. And look at this bullet. It was this big. There's no way this bullet could have possibly hit his ear. Well, if you know anything about guns, the bullet that he would have used, it was just the tip that would have came off the bullet. Like, let's just all stop pretending that we're experts on guns. I'm not an expert on guns. I don't know what type of weapon to use. I barely know anything besides revolvers and muskets. So I'm not going to pretend that I'm a gun expert. But like, you can see there's photos of the teleprompter that, they're intact. You can see, the photos of the aftermath. You can see that he was shot. He even said that he was shot. He heard the bullet. He heard the noise. He, felt whatever he felt. And then he was tackled.
There was no doubt from the moment he went down on the ground. There was no doubt about what really happened. And you know that because whether or not this was in good taste is not really the question, but he stood up with his fist in the air.
Right.
He knew what happened.
Right. Trump, because he wants you to know that he is still Trump. He is still in power, and he is still going to get out there and fight.
Right, exactly. And, I think you could probably go back and forth on like what that kind of thing was. Personally, I don't think it was in good taste, but I don't think that, I think there is a huge shock factor going into effect. I mean, when somebody is in that position, so I'm not really going to go crazy on that. But at the same time, he knew what happened. The Secret Service that was there knew what happened. The people in the audience, if that's what you call it, at the rally, they knew what happened. And why then did the media struggle so seriously with coming up with the appropriate messaging for
Trump,
letting the American public know? Right, because it's Trump. And you've got Trump supporters and conservatives and Republicans who may or may not support Trump that are hearing all the time that he's a liar, right? That's the only message that really clearly gets through on a regular basis about Trump, is that he's a liar. And one of the headlines that I screenshotted and sent to you, it actually says, Trump says he was shot at, or something to that effect. It says, Trump says, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't say, confirmed assassination. So that's not what it says.
Right.
And so your media, our media, says Trump's a liar. That's the only thing that they say, right? Religiously, they say a lot of things, but religiously, every time they say he's a liar. And then you say, well, Trump said that he was shot at, but I mean, he's a liar. So that's the message. And that's why the American people, a lot of them, feel like they are being lied to. And it's left and it's right, because people won't listen to Fox News, right? People won't listen to... I used to listen to a local news station on a regular basis that I haven't listened to in probably 5 years. I like religiously listened to all day long. All they kept saying was, every time he said the word Trump, the main guy would go, lying, 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 liar. And he would just yell it every single time. And I was like, I can't keep listening to this. I turned it off.
Right, because you're supposed to be unbiased when you're in the news media.
Right. And just screaming, lying, 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 liar doesn't really do the job.
Not at all.
And then I hear President Biden saying, hey, we need to like bring the temperature down, which I think is okay. I don't think some of the media that I listen to said, yeah, it was okay. Like his statements were okay.
I mean, it was generic. It was safe.
Right.
What else was he going to say? We know that how he feels about Trump. He's not going to be like, oh, the guy,
If he had gone any further, it would have just come off as being like really disingenuous.
Right.
And so I think that what he said in the beginning, I think what he said was acceptable and it was relatively appropriate. I also think that bringing up 3 different scenarios where other people were, where other potential violence or actual violence almost became part of our, of our history, the last week in history, was not appropriate. So, like, one of them was item brought up January 6th, brought up Nancy Pelosi.
And their husband was assaulted.
The husband, right? But it was meant for her, right?
Correct. Yeah, their house was broken into by another white young man, and she wasn't there. So her husband was assaulted. I believe the guy is in jail now. He was arrested, and her husband, I think, was held hostage for quite a while as well during the incident.
Several hours. And the other incident that was brought up was the attempted kidnapping, right, of a Democratic governor. Bringing up those instances to me and to a lot of the people that I have spoken with, because I kind of run things by people like, am I crazy? Am I the only one that's thinking this? Am I the only one that's seeing this? I know, trying to see it from somebody else's angle, even though I may or may not agree. Like, what are you thinking about this? Here's the feedback that I'm getting is, it's like, well, it happened to us too. Like, like former President Trump, it happens to him, but like it happened to us too.
Kind of
like the feedback that I'm hearing.
It's what you sign up for. However, I will give Biden credit. Don't kill me. I will give Biden credit because typically in these scenarios, he puts himself in the shoes of these people, right? So normally in this scenario, he would say, we have to cool the jets here. We got to cool the temperature. Back at my assassination attempt 40 years ago, when, triple name tried to take me out when I was giving my speech, it grazed me in the arm. But the secrets, that's how the story would evolve. Luckily, he actually used real scenarios that actually happened. I don't think he embellished them. I actually think they were truthful. And so those comparisons were actually real life, and they weren't his that he made up to, gain sympathy for himself, which is typically what he does.
On the surface, I read it, before the specific examples, like I was reading it and I'm going, okay, I can get behind that, right? Like, temperature's hot, things need to cool down, unity, we're all Americans, we're all neighbors, we have to work together, literally, in our workplaces. I can get behind that. And then when you start naming these examples, they're accurate. Yeah, I'll give you that.
Why are they happening?
Well, because everything's inflammatory, right? And including...
Is it because we have Biden in control that isn't really in control? Is it because we had Trump in control that started the toxicity? If you ask certain people, those will be your answers. If you ask the left, they'll tell you one thing. If you ask the right, they'll tell you the other. And those will be your two responses.
I think that, to be honest with you, this is not like my opinion. This is like me, like taking the temperature, since we keep talking about. I mean, it's like, ironically, like there is actual other news, which includes like the entire United States' temperature right now. But we can't talk about that because we're very busy talking about this. But taking the temperature of the people that I talk to, so I know a lot of people that are much more conservative than myself. I definitely know a lot of people that are not in that camp, that are a lot more liberal or a lot more democratic. A lot of people are going to go all the way back to Obama and say that, that the divide happens.
No, I do not disagree with that, though. I 100% do not disagree. I don't. Yeah. I really feel like it did start with him.
Right. Yeah.
I do. Yep. I think the whole race war started with him. I really do.
Yep. I agree. I
can't say it started with him. It amplified with him.
Right.
It obviously did not start with him, but it amplified with him.
Things are really wild right now. I don't know where this is really going to take us.
If you look at the polls right now, Trump is currently leading the United States. If you look at the polls, he is in the lead to win presidency. However, given that he was just, almost taken out, could that work for him more so? Or is that going to work against him? Could he then drop in the polls? Or is it going to do like, the charges did and boost him in the polls again? I think it's going to boost him more. I do. I think it's going to boost him more. I've talked to people that think it's going to make him drop in the polls. I don't. I think it's going to boost him. I really do.
I also think that it's going to boost him more. I could see where people may think that he would lose some points because people might say, well, I agree with him, but I'd rather not see our country torn apart. So I'm not going to go that route. I don't think that's what's going to happen. But I understand that people are saying that.
Well, and they're nervous that it could happen again.
Right. Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of ways this could go. I think that Trump is going to get a lot of support right now. People that don't typically voice their support are going to kind of start coming out of the woodwork saying like, oh, I think it might be okay for me to tell my political views now. Because I definitely think there's a lot of people that don't come right out. Like they definitely are waiting and talking behind closed doors because they're not comfortable stating who they are and what they think. And it's probably on both sides. You're going to see the Trump supporters definitely coming out and saying like, yeah, no, that was wrong. And I'm on his team.
And well, now that he also chose his VP pick, because, J.D. Vance of Ohio, which is also interesting because Ohio is that important state too,
They overshadowed.
Yeah. Well, I think it's perfect timing, though, because obviously we had, the convention, obviously he needs to take a little of the attention away from the assassination attempt. If they are concerned that it's going to drop his numbers, they do need something to boost it, right? He was first a Trump non-supporter, but then he came to the Trump side, and he is now a Trump supporter. He's a big MAGA supporter. He is going to be, if they win, the youngest VP since Nixon, if you can believe it. He is 39 years old. He'll be 40, I believe, in August.
So we kind of talked about this a little bit, and since we are so cutting edge, let me ask you again. We were talking about France. We talked about the age of some of these people in politics. Politics has aged a lot. There's wisdom in age, apparently, something like that. I don't know. So what does it mean that we're gonna bring in some spry young 39-year-olds? What does that do for us? What's your opinion?
It's interesting because originally they were saying that Trump would not pick something so young because it would overshadow the fact that he is so old, right? But if you are looking at the fact that he is in his 70s, and when you're pinning him against someone of Biden's age who's also in his 70s, because that is the argument, right? Everyone keeps talking about how old Biden is, but so is Trump. So you have to bring in someone younger to balance that. You're not going to bring in Tim Scott. That's a little too risky. So you have your Ohio, which is that state you need. You have the millennial, which is right in the Trump supporter. You got the MAGA supporter right there. He is the true 100% MAGA supporter.
Yeah.
I think it's going to do him well.
Yeah. You know what? I think it is going to be good for him. I don't know much about him, but I know that I've seen him speak, and he has a very clear, decisive tone without coming off as like belligerent or somebody that you don't really want to hear. You know, like it literally, in terms literally of people speaking speeches, you know, being a public presence. You listen to Biden and it's painful. It hurts. It's
so painful. And Kamala too, honestly. Kamala might be, honest to God, more painful than Biden.
Not for me.
I don't know.
People really dislike her tone. I know.
She just sounds like an idiot.
I think that Trump, even for people that like Trump, they really hate the way that he speaks. It is so much.
Well, because he's so abrasive.
And he is. Abrasive is exactly the word for it. JD Vance, I think that he sounds so clear and the tone is on point, and it's like, wait, you can do, from what I've heard.
You know, his wife is also an Indian immigrant, so they are hoping, you know, to bring in that dynamic as well. But if you remember, Melania and Trump, like, that didn't work. So I don't know.
No. Well, I think with it could be wrong, but I think that with Melania and Trump, it didn't work because it's a bit of an awkward relationship.
Well,
and when you highlight it, it doesn't get much better. So I don't know. I don't know about this guy's personal life, and maybe it will be better. I don't know.
I don't know either.
Boy, there's a lot going on.
There is so much. I mean, that's like the surface. That is not even. Oof.
We could honestly do this podcast every single night for the next 2 weeks, and we would not run out of things to discuss. Honestly, I don't even know what we would be talking about if we weren't talking about the assassination attempt. Call it what you want to call it. American public is going to make the decision. If they haven't already, they have. So
they have.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There you have it.
That's it.
That's it.
All needs to be said.
You've been listening to The History Last Week with Mollie and Rachel.